UFC Fight Night, Lemos versus Jandiroba. We have a pretty underwhelming card this weekend. Dana White was busy giving speeches at rallies when he should have been upping up his matchmaking. So only to go through the main card here. The rest of the fights were pretty forgettable. But, of course, we have Manchester right around the corner to look forward to. So let's just get through this first. First fight, we have a featherweight matchup between DooHo Choi and Bill Algeo. Choi has only had 2 fights since 2019, so he's been super inactive. But when he did fight most recently versus Kyle Nelson, coming off of pretty much a 3.5, 4-year layoff, he looked pretty solid. Kyle Nelson's a guy who's been on a little bit of a streak of his own, and I thought he won that fight for sure. He's quick on the feet and has just like a good, solid striking base. Algeo is the much more aggressive fighter. He's always looking for a finish, can do it on the feet or can submit you. But I think Choi's got the faster hands and he's a bit more disciplined, and I kind of just prefer his style over the sort of wild and flailing style of Bill Algeo. So Algeo is definitely going to be a threat to get a finish here, but I do think Choi will find a decision victory in this fight. He's just going to get more work done on the feet and win it on the cards. Next fight is a flyweight matchup between Bruno Silva and Cody Durden. Silva's on a 3-fight finish streak and looked really good in those fights. He's done it on the feet and he's done it with submissions as well. Versus Tyson Nam, he had a really nice sort of straight kick. I forget what you call him, but he kind of hit him with the Michael Chandler to Tony Ferguson. Almost shut his lights off, but the fight was even though Tyson survived that, the fight was pretty much over shortly after that. He wrapped him up in a choke. He's taking on Cody Durden, who's really solid. He was on a bit of a streak of his own before he went up against Tagir Ulanbekov and got submitted. Had his moments in that fight, but the grappling difference was definitely apparent. Durden's going to be the bigger guy, but I think Silva's more well-rounded. I think he's going to be the better grappler, actually, even though Durden, I think, does have a really solid wrestling base. And if the opportunity presents itself, Silva is just going to wrap him up and submit him. So we're taking Silva by submission in that matchup. Next up is a lightweight matchup between Holobaugh and Kaynan Kruschewsky. Holobaugh, he's the winner of sort of the most recent The Ultimate Fighter season, if you don't exclude the one going on right now. He beat Austin Hubbard to get that title. I think he submitted him. He's a really well-rounded guy. I think he's something like 37, so he's seen it all in the game. There's not really any look that Kaynan Kruschewsky is going to show him that he hasn't seen before. Kaynan only has 2 career losses, but he only has fought like 16, 17 times, and in his UFC debut, he got KO'd pretty brutally versus Elvis Brenner. A fight that didn't even look like it landed flush. It almost hit him on the noggin, which you don't see very often, but put him just clean out. Very destructive KO. I think he could have taken off more time than he has, even though it has been a significant amount of time. I just don't really like to see that your first taste of UFC competition and you get put out pretty brutally. I think Holobaugh's the more well-rounded guy, and he's going to win a decision here. He can do it with his wrestling. I think he can hold his own on the feet, even though Kruschewsky is going to be a threat to KO him or get a submission of his own. I just think Holobaugh, we can rely on his experience a bit more. Next fight is a matchup between Steve Garcia and SeungWoo Choi. This is our co-main event now that the Prad Veras and Jin Young Park matchup got scratched. Garcia is on a 3-fight KO streak. He's looked so good in those fights. Most recently versus Messi Kael Costa, I think that's how you pronounce his name. A fight that he got pretty much controlled the entire first round, but came out in the second round, reversed a takedown, and just pretty much just started smashing him. SeungWoo Choi is a guy who's, really good on paper. He looks like he has all the skills, but has struggled to put it together and have really any consistency in the octagon. Feels like the UFC keeps giving him opportunities because he's shown flashes, but just hasn't been able to put it all together, like I said. He has a tendency to get lulled into brawls, which I think that he's not really that type of guy. I think he's better in more of a point fighting sort of environment, but people are able to sort of just drag him into these brawls, and, credit to him, he's willing to get down. That being said, if that's the case versus Steve Garcia, he's getting put out, I think, pretty quickly. Steve Garcia is the harder puncher. We know he's got the KOs to back it up. We're taking Garcia by KO. I think SeungWoo Choi could have some success early, but as soon as it gets ugly, I think Garcia is going to turn it around. So we're going to say a round 2 KO is the pick there. And we have our main event. It is a strawweight matchup between Amanda Lemos and Virna Jandiroba. Virna is on a 3-fight win streak, all by decision coming into this. She beat Lupi Godinez, Marina Rodriguez, and Angela Hill. She's, got very solid grappling. She's great at taking the fight to the ground, and she can climb on people's backs really easily and pretty much just control the entire round there. She's always threatening submissions. It's pretty remarkable that she hasn't sunk one in that 3-fight win streak. But she makes sure to maintain position and just win rounds. She's taking on Amanda Lemos, who's super powerful and I think much more athletically gifted than Virna and most of the women in the division, but definitely not the most skilled. I think she was pretty late in her life when she started her MMA career, and it does show. She's got a bit of a brawling style, and we saw her get controlled for pretty much 5 rounds versus SeungWoo Lee. Very one-sided fight. She had pretty much no business being in the octagon there, but SeungWoo Lee is a different type of athlete than Virna Jandiroba, who I don't think is as physically imposing as SeungWoo Lee. Jandiroba's style, I think, lends itself much more to a 3-round fight than a 5-round fight. That sort of grappling approach, you see those fighters having a lot less success in the championship rounds that I think Lemos can take advantage of here. Can definitely see her getting control of the entire first round, but as time goes on, finding more success. She looked really good versus Mackenzie Dern. All it took was pretty much 1 or 2 leg kicks, and Dern was compromised pretty much from the rip in that fight. So with all that being said, I am taking Amanda Lemos to win a decision here. I just think she's going to have more success on the feet. I think by the end of, 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round, those takedowns are going to be much harder to come by for Jandiroba. And especially if she doesn't submit Lemos, which she hasn't submitted any of her last 3 opponents, I think Lemos, her athleticism and her power is going to sort of carry her through that fight. So Lemos by decision is the pick there. And with that is the breakdown. Only to the main card today. Couldn't really suffer through breaking down all those prelim fights. So, of course, we'll be providing more full card breakdowns in the future. This was just a tough week for me, but still enjoyed breaking down this main card. And Manchester UFC 304 we have coming up next weekend is going to be a movie. So we will catch you on the next breakdown.